when we talk about war, what comes to our mind? Armed forces, Navy, Air Force. But most of us cyber professionals, we also think of cyber warfare. And in today's era, cyber warfare starts much earlier than the actual war. And we have seen in recent past conflict with neighboring countries. But much before that, the cyber war starts. What once was a domain of opportunist hackers has now become a battlefield with nation-state actors using highly sophisticated cyber warfare. Well, let's now dive rightly into this conversation with Gautam by my side, who has extensive experience spanning over 2 decades in cybersecurity. Thank you so much, Gautam, for joining us.
Jai Hind, cyber warfare.
Gautam, give us a story. You have worked across geographies, you have across different industry segments, across different domains of security. Let us know any story where you have been involved in managing a security breach of a significant scale that was state actor sponsored.
Yes, like many of us here, I do have battle scars, and cyber warfare, of course, is thing of present, which is really very, very present. Before I give a story, Prasad, just a bit of a background, because it's important to understand the background before I give the story. So I've just moved back from Australia. I spent about 2.5 years over there, and the story is actually a little, from my Australian days. This is the year 2022, just after COVID. As a nation, and here the nation is Australia, they weren't very good relationship with China, and China and Australia have a very good trade relationship, but just after COVID, just like a lot of the Western countries, it wasn't a great relationship. Come September, so this is September of 2022, every single day, or maybe every other day, there was a breach into any of the entities within Australian ecosystem. It started with one of the largest telecom service provider, then a medical insurance provider, then a consumer entity, and so on and so forth. In one single month, the newspapers reported almost like 10 or 12, major breaches in that particular, month. It was almost like the country was at war, with another state, entities. It was just never ending. We would wake up, one morning and we'll find, hey, another, breach has happened. And the citizens were very worried because the driving license number got compromised. The passports were compromised, and those were identities which you would use to open your bank accounts. Right? Driving license in Australia was very important identification. So if that gets compromised, you do have to go and get a new one. It was a massive scale which we had never seen before. I investigated one of the major telecom breaches. I am under client confidentiality, so I can't share the gory details of what actually happened. But it transpired over a period of like 2 days. It's one of the largest I've seen ever. Like 40% of the Australian citizens' data got compromised. That's massive, right? Although the number was just 10 million, but if you look at that 10 million, it's 40% of the citizens' data. A huge hue and cry which erupted because apparently the company did not manage the narrative very well. It went and said there is no breach. Then it went and said there is some breach. And then after 4 or 5 days, it says, everything has been stolen. So it became a little, comedy of sorts in the press, where from saying no breach to saying, hey, all my data has gone, out. The parliament raised the question. It went all the way to the parliament as well. Australia has a Ministry of Cybersecurity, by the way. She raised questions in the parliament as well and saying, hey, this particular entity has to be taken to task. How dare, they didn't have the protection overall. It was playing out like a movie, every single day there was something or the other. And my learning from them, we spent about 7 months there investigating how the breach happened, what was the root causes, etc. Of course, I can't share the gory details, I'm under client privilege, but few learnings from there. One, be transparent, what happened, or tell the public, we don't know what happened, we're still investigating, it's fine. It's fine to buy time. But, kind of going and saying, oh, nothing has happened, to then saying, the whole thing has, broken loose is not a great publicity for any, company. To prepare for the worst. So in this case, when the breach happened, their call center was really inundated with a lot of calls. Everybody wanted to know, hey, has my data got breached? Tell me so that I can go to, the RTO and get my license changed, because that's my, only source of truth. Anybody can go and open a bank account in my name. So, prepare for the worst. And 3, collaborate with the government. Here, we thought, at least this is my personal opinion, there was a literally lack of collaboration between the company and the government. So 3 major learnings, Prasad.
Thank you, Gautam. So Gautam, when it comes to BFSI sector, it's a critical sector, right? And when the cyber warfare starts, or sometimes it's already going on and we don't even know, right? There are prominent infrastructure vulnerabilities which are targeted. But you look at from organization's perspective, what had been your experience? Where do organizations undermine their infrastructure vulnerabilities, or where are those blind spots you think they should definitely address based on your experience?
Yeah, and look, so we need to understand that a state actor has unlimited resources. They can be persistent. They can use their resources to buy, exploits. They can use their resources to buy, stolen credentials. They have almost unlimited set of, resources. If they want to, go after a certain, organization, in most cases, they will potentially become successful. In my experience, and we do manage a lot of critical infrastructure in the country, we end up seeing a lot of these, attacks which can be routed to a state actor. We found that in 90% of the cases, it's a identity compromise. So either an identity has been, phished or bought into the from the dark web, or we're using a stolen compromise somewhere, or we've been able to do a privilege escalation. So that's one big chunk of vulnerabilities which we've kind of seen. The second is legacy. We found a lot of financial services organization, and also if I look at other critical infrastructure like energy sector, has legacy applications and OT environment, which has, of course, tons of vulnerabilities which can be really exploited. Unfortunately, a lot of it cannot be changed, cannot be migrated, cannot be updated, because it requires a lot of changes, a lot of money, probably a will. So legacy apps do tend to get more compromised. Lastly, supply chain. In fact, just very recently, you would have heard a retailer which got compromised, and over there also, it is assumed that a third-party, credential was compromised to get into the system. Again, I'm just reading publicly available information. Don't quote me. But over there also, it is a third party there. So supply chain attack is very, very, it's gaining a big, traction overall, because by one breach, you can actually go after multiple entities in a single go. So it becomes very, good to just go after a supply chain attack.
So today's environment is complex. Everywhere there is a platformization, multiple players. We are dealing with stakeholders have gone up. but then you are also bringing them because of operational efficiencies to achieve those operations. So how do you balance between, say, security and operational efficiencies? If we say that, assume that there is going to be a breach, assume breach architecture. So what are the practices around that? Could you highlight those?
So firstly, in my 25 years of cybersecurity career, I have not, and last 15 years has been more in the consulting side. I have not gone to client and said there is a trade-off between cyber and operational efficiency. That's just my advice to clients. I always say cyber is important. You have to get that risk taken care of. There's no trade-off. For a critical infrastructure, cyber has to be one of the top 3 or top 5 risks at an enterprise level, which means that there cannot be a trade-off. You have to remediate the issues or the risks, right? Of course, you cannot be 0% overall, but it has to be to an acceptable level where the company feels that, yes, I am protected, right? It cannot be 0. There's nothing called a 100% secure environment. So there is no trade-off in my, personal opinion. Cyber has to be obviously addressed, fully addressed. Very recently, our CDS, General Anil Chauhan, mentioned something which very much applies to the cyber space as well. He said that in combat, losses will happen. It is essential to learn, adapt, and re-engage. That's the assume breach concept. In cyber warfare, it is inevitable. You will get breached. It is how soon you learn from the breach, how fast you respond to it, and how fast you can pivot is important. And here the engagement is, how do I protect again, and then make sure the next wave of attack doesn't really happen. So that's really what the assume breach scenario. I used to tell my clients, few years ago, that there are only 2 types of organization. One which has been breached, the other which is ignorant to the breach. So there are only 2 types of organization. So at some point in time, I'm sure you would have either got some breach, or you don't know that you've got breached, or you don't know that there is somebody already sitting in your environment. So there are only 2 types of organization. Therefore, always assume breach is a concept where you continuously keep testing your environment. It is a continuous cycle. It is no longer a cycle where you will just do a red teaming maybe once a year, or you'll do blue teaming or purple teaming. It is a continuous cycle of learning. It is a continuous cycle of, it's like army standing on red alert all the time. That's exactly what assume breach scenario is. So cyber has to be on red alert every single day, every single minute. That's how, unfortunately, it is complex, the scenarios have become in a cyber warfare.
Thank you. So before I ask my last question, I would like to take a couple of questions from audience. Any questions from audience? Is there? Okay. Come to my last question of the session. Gautam, AI is being weaponized and used extensively for attacks. How does the future hold for us as a cybersecurity professionals?
Yes, it is. It is a game changer, isn't it? So I'm sure everybody has been. I think the AI question has been answered and debated and taught multiple times over. So I'm not going to talk about AI. It is there in our life. It will be used by attackers. It has to be used by the defenders. You have to, as security professional, you also have to secure AI models, because they would be they would be doing a lot of the work in future. So it is part of our life, and it has been debated multiple times. But I'm going to touch base on a very other topic here. How do we as critical infrastructure organization kind of pivot for the cyber warfare? All of us today do our breach simulation. we get ready for our breaches. We do these simulation exercise, tabletop exercise. We get ready. Hey, in case of a cyber attack, how am I going to respond? But now with cyber warfare, we need to now think of a mass, India level breaches. So what if I don't have electricity for a prolonged period of time because my neighbor has brought down my grid, right? It could be a physical grid attack or it could be a logical or a cyber attack. What if my telecom environment is down for a prolonged period of time and therefore all my emergency communication channels, I can't use. So how do I sustain that, right? These are the answers which now we need to also think about. When COVID happened, many of us did not have a pandemic as a BCP plan. We started putting that only after COVID. And I can tell you, a lot of our BCP plans do not have this scenario. What if telecommunication lines are down for a prolonged period of time? It can happen, right? How do I respond in such a scenario? So this is where we got to involve the citizens. We got to make them ready, because a bank will obviously not be able to function, and there's very limited a bank can do if the telecommunication line is down, because it's out of your control. So this is where we have to start empowering the citizens. We have to start using the government. We have to start doing drills at that level. The government today is doing drills for, say, a physical war. We may have been part of those drills. But what about these types of drills? What if, we should start doing such kind of drills at a national level? A grid down, how are we going to coordinate? Of course, it cannot happen, in silos. It has to be with, obviously, the government and the state government, together.
So do you see companies, like especially verticals like banking vertical, companies sharing intelligence between them and preparing themselves for such attacks?
100%. I think it's already happening. There are sector-specific certs, and I'm sure the industries are sharing intelligence, by themselves. It needs to obviously become more and more important, and it needs to be done across industry as well. So because one vulnerability can be used across, so no doubt about that. Yes.
Yeah. And the last, any recommendations for CISOs for cyber warfare?
Well, my only recommendation is think like the army. They are always on the alert. They're always waiting for the next wave of attack coming in from maybe our hostile neighbors. So it is a 24/7 alertness which the CISO teams needs to show. Continuous testing, monitoring is fundamental, but this heightened alert is something which I would really, recommend.
Thank you so much, Gautam. Thank you for your insights. With this, I think we can conclude the Fireside chat. For those who are interested in pursuing this topic, advanced persistent threats, please read our threat landscape, India threat landscape report. We published it in 2023, 2024. Every year we publish it. We are capturing the threats from state actors, nation state actors, across sectors. We have analyzed around 440 million detections. So I would highly recommend you to go through those reports and understand the severity of these attacks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gautam.
Thank you.